recording. Okay, there we go. So I want to make sure I have that going because I'll need to give that opportunity for people to play it back. And also, so that's the first thing. So if I'm fumbling around a little bit, be patient with me. And the other thing is that we have revised this course, revamped this course significantly from the previous times that I've taught it. So there are some new things that you guys are going to be the guinea pigs on. So congratulations for that. And some of these things we'll be experiencing together for the first time. Most of them, yeah, woot, woot. Most of them we will are things that I've done a number of times before, so we should be okay. So, but again, it's going to be pretty busy and a lot to accomplish, but I really think you guys are going to enjoy this class. It's my favorite, absolute favorite class to teach at Franklin. I also teach at Columbus State, and by far this is my favorite class just because of the dynamic of using the live client. So let's get started. Here is the agenda today. I'm going to do a really quick course overview. As I said, there's a lot of moving parts in this course, and I want to make sure that you have an idea of how things are going to progress. I tried to include as much of that as I could in the initial email that I sent out yesterday. Hopefully that was helpful. A lot of information. I try to include as much information as I could about what's coming up and what to expect. We'll talk about the week 1 assignments, a couple of quick reminders, and then our live client meeting. So the client is, I think both of them are going to join. 2 people from the organization are going to join. They're about 7:30, so I have to talk fast. But that's okay. It's pretty typically how we'll run. Okay, and that's the agenda. There will be plenty of time. The client presentation, the way we'll run that, by the way, I met with her earlier today and ran through the slides and we talked about them. Mostly what we'll do is have them just present, and then I have you guys, while they're presenting, if you have comments that you want to keep track of, you can enter them into the chat area and I'll make sure to go back and review them. But there'll be significant time left for a Q&A afterwards. So I hope you've all had the chance to review some of the materials on the client, and we'll have a chance to answer, and they're willing to stay as long as we need to. So I anticipate that we'll probably go till about 9 today. And that's possibly the longest time we'll be meeting together, except for the last week when we do our team presentations. So, okay, so let's see what's ahead. Quick course overview. As I said, this is a unique course in that you're going to be applying a lot of concepts that you've learned in your other marketing classes. I really see this class. It's funny. I really think this should be the last class, rather than the final project that you guys work on. But because you're really integrating all of the marketing concepts you've learned in your previous classes, and with the new component we've added, it really does add that flavor of a really comprehensive study of marketing. So there are 2 aspects of the class as we've been talking about. One is working with a live client to develop an integrated marketing communication plan. And the other is a case study that's built around the simulation, which hopefully most of you have had the opportunity to check out on Market Share. That's kind of the new wrinkle we added this term. And that really is for me, really requires you to think strategically and marketing, but also a very deep dive into some of the information related to the numbers and financial information and the kind of things that a lot of times get overlooked in marketing classes. So that's why we added that to this course. So I think you'll see as we go along, there's a method to our madness. So 2 primary things you're going to be working on: the simulation case study, which is called the brand management case study, the brand management exercises, and the second is the integrated marketing communication plan. So there are two kind of tracks, if you will, two primary points or key parts of this class. Um, You'll do some work independently, and most of that is in the first week. But most of the work is going to be done in teams. Hopefully you've had the chance to review who your team members, connect with them in some way by email or however you guys connect. Most of you, I believe, have been in classes together before, and may or may not have been involved in on some of the same teams, hopefully. And if you are working for the first time with someone, it's a great opportunity to get that experience and meet with and work with someone new too. So those are all good things. So you are going to be working together on several group assignments, and as we go along, I'll explain how those work. As I said in my opening comments, you're really going to have to synthesize everything you've learned in all your previous classes. I know this is a class that says marketing communication planning, but an integrated marketing communication plan really has to take into account all of the marketing, all of the business, all of the strategies and that around an organization in order to be effective. So that's really what we're going to have the opportunity to work on. So I think you find it very rewarding, but I also think, as I said, you'll find yourself thinking, oh, wait a minute, when do we cover that? And as we go along, you'll find that the readings that are assigned each week, there are readings from the textbook assigned. They coincide with and correspond to the topics that you're going to be covering in either the market share simulation or an integrated marketing communication plan. So we've kind of set it up so that you're reviewing those materials, reviewing that information in your text as we're going along to kind of refresh you, to remind you of, sometimes the terminology or maybe strategies, those kind of things. So it is kind of an all-encompassing class. And again, you guys have been at this long enough as graduate level students to know there's a lot of work ahead, but we'll get through this together. So. Okay, so that's a quick overview of the course, and we'll keep rolling. Here's the kind of the roadmap, if you will, of how things will happen. So weeks 1 through 5, we will have class meetings in weeks 1 through 5, every week of the class. This first week is the entire class, and it's a longer meeting because we have our client. We have our client meeting, our live client meeting with us. But the weeks 2 through 5 are meetings that you'll have with your class, and as you may have seen in some of the other communication, I will be joining you for a short part of that meeting, and the primary purpose of those weekly meetings is, first of all, to review the market share case, to review the work that you've done in the case for that week, and that's the primary purpose of it. But the other part of it is to answer any questions you have about the other assignments. So it's an opportunity to do that. As we go along, and we'll see how this goes after this first week, I may also set up office hours for people to come and visit or meet with me if they have questions about assignments as we're going along. So just wanted to share that. I'm giving that some consideration, but let's see how it goes this week, and if we need to, we'll certainly do that. And you, of course, can reach me anytime by email. In my introduction, I think I put my phone number in the overview or in the class intro. And you can text me anytime, and if we need to talk, we can do that. We can meet on Zoom. There's lots of ways. So I am here as your resource pretty much anytime. I might not respond very quickly at 2 or 3 in the morning. I do sleep sometimes, but not always, just like you guys. So, okay. So anyway, there are class meetings weeks 1 through 5. There are written assignments every week, and in week 1, your written assignment is actually, there's a mistake here, but you have week 1, you have an individual assignment, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and you also have a team assignment. And that's around the team assignment is around the brand management case. The individual assignment is around the integrated marketing communication plan. And then the rest of the written assignments, weeks 2 through 5, are all team assignments. So everyone, you'll be submitting one assignment, and we'll talk about that again as we go along for the entire group. And it represents the work of the group, and everyone basically gets the same grade on those projects. In week 1, the individual assignment, you get individual grades on. The brand management decisions is also something that you'll be working on through weeks 1 through 5. And again, as we go along, we'll talk more about that. And basically, you'll be making decisions to help advance the product that we're talking about. It's called All Round. It's a cold medicine that you'll be making decisions on and entering those decisions into the simulation with the hope of advancing the product and making it successful. And at the end, you'll be your grade on that part of the assignment will be based on how well the brand product performs, how well the company performs, those kind of things. So as we move along, you'll see a little bit more about that. Week 6, so the brand management stuff is finished at the end of week 5. In week 6, our class meeting is all about the presentation of your communication plans to our client. And so you'll be working on the plan that week, and then sometime during that week, we'll pick the day as we get closer. I'll try to push it to a little bit later in the week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, to give you a little bit of time to prepare for that in that week. But the only meeting, or the only purpose of the meeting that week, is to present your communication plan to our client. And then the other things you have to do in that week are evaluations, agency log and evaluation, which we'll talk about as we get closer to that. No need to worry about that now, except perhaps the agency log. I think I'll talk about in just a little bit. Okay. Any questions on that before we move on? If you're chattable, yeah, why don't you, if you wouldn't mind responding to questions in the chat, that would be great. That way I know everyone's here. So for weeks 2 to 5, when do we do our groups? It's up to you. You guys will decide when you want to meet as a group. The only thing is you will let me know when you're having your meeting about the market share case, and so that I can join that meeting for about 20 to 30 minutes. You can meet multiple times during the week, but it's up to the group to decide when you guys want to meet. You will probably end up meeting more than once a week, I imagine, because you got 2, projects to work on. So that's entirely up to you guys when to do that. Okay. Awesome. All right. Here's how the grades break out. Basically, class meetings do count for a little bit, so you do need to be here. The class meeting tonight, plus the individual class meetings where I attend. There are some points associated with that, but the major component, as you can see, is the group project, which is the integrated marketing communication plan, and the presentation. That's about 64% of the grade, so 2/3 of the grade, just about, is that plan, because that's kind of the key primary focus. The market share assignments are about 20%, 19% of the grade, so you do have to do those, and there's the initial plan, marketing plan that you have to submit this week, plus the kind of the final wrap up that are assignments that you have to do from market share, and that's about 20%. And then other individual assignments in week 1 and 6. Week 1, you have the overview of the client, the situation analysis, and then in week 6, you've got an assignment where you evaluate your team, but you also evaluate the other presentations. And as I said, we'll talk more about that as we go. So just wanted to give you an idea. The major focus of this class is the integrated marketing communication plan that we're doing for our client. That's why it's such a heavily weighted thing. So that's where you want to make sure you focus. Just you guys know all this. Everything pretty much in the class are due by the end of the day Sunday. Make sure you do when you're doing market share your decisions, which is how you advance the assignment. You'll be doing 2 periods a week. We'll talk a little more about that in a minute. You will see how that works, and those are due also by the end of the day Sunday. Other due dates that may come up in the meantime are posted in the objects in the group, but pretty much all the written assignments are to be submitted by the end of the day Sunday, and that's typical of most classes. The late policy, if for some reason assignments are turned in late. So here, Sky's iPhone. I wasn't able to find the market share login info for student. Where is that located? Oh, okay. Yeah, it came in your Franklin email. Sorry, Sky. Hopefully you find that. If you Sky, if you don't find it tonight, give me a call, text me, or chat me, or something like that. We can we'll make sure you get that, and I can send you the link separately. Okay. All right. Again, enough said on this. You guys know this. You've been here. Yes, going to cover those real quick. Actually, coming up. That's the primary purpose of the meeting tonight. So we'll be covering the week 1 assignments. Okay. Group projects, just a reminder, you guys have worked in, done teams and worked on teams in other classes. No different here. So just be aware that your group projects, you do have an opportunity to provide feedback to other group members, but the groups are smaller. I've made the groups, there's I think 3 groups of 3 and 1 group of 4. If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, sounds about right. So just so you're aware, there's smaller groups. I've done this class with larger groups, and the smaller groups were recommended based on past feedback we've gotten in teaching this class, and it's also what's recommended in the market share. So you'll have an opportunity to get to know your team members pretty well. Okay. Want to give you a quick overview of how the marketing plan comes together. This is the IMC group project, the integrated marketing communication plan that we're working on. And what I like about this is basically each week you are developing a part of the plan. So what will happen, each week you develop 1 or 2 sections of the actual final marketing plan, and what will happen at the end of that week, when you submit it, I'll grade that, return it to you pretty quickly within a day or 2, and you'll have the opportunity to revise it based on my feedback and resubmit it, and you actually get points for a resubmitted, updated assignment. The reason I'm doing that, and the reason we do that, is so that when we get to the end in week 5, when you submit the complete marketing plan, that's when the actual complete marketing plan is done, you're not having to start over. You're not having to figure out how all the pieces fit together. What I encourage students to do is kind of, as you're going along, just add the next section and then revise the previous section as needed. And so I'll have you guys submit each week basically kind of the running version of your marketing plan. So, in week 1, we don't have a assignment except for the environmental scan. Week 2, you'll submit your marketing goals and STP, which is the next 2 chunks of the plan, next 2 sections of the plan, and you'll add the environmental scan to that, so you'll be turning in the first 3. In week 3, you add the objectives of strategies and go back and revise the previous 2 weeks assignments if necessary based on the feedback you got in the grading. And then in week 4, you'll submit the first 3 sections or the first 4 or 5 sections, and then add the next 2 sections, tactics and implementation. This will make more sense as we go along. But the idea is so that there's not this big bang at the end where you have to start over and try to put all these pieces together from previous weeks. So that's a little different maybe than you've done in other classes, but the idea is when we get to the end, you've got a very well refined project and product for our client. So just want you to be aware that that's how things will work. Okay, does that make sense? So basically, we shouldn't feel too overwhelmed by the project. Just the pieces. Just trust the pieces. Yeah, that's exactly right, Terry. I think, or TJ. Yeah, I got to remember that. TJ, thanks for reminding me. The don't allow, because what you'll be working on for week 6 is a presentation to the client. So that's really what the focus needs to be. So that's why we kind of build those pieces as we go. Yeah, I see that, Elaine. That's okay. No worries. I'm aware. You know, I am hoping my internet in my house is sometimes spotty. Thank you. Well, it used to be Time Warner, now Spectrum, but every once in a while it'll drop out. And if for some reason I go away, hang on, I'll be back. I forgot to mention that. So anyway, appreciate it. Feel your pain. Okay. Oh, any other questions on that? Whoops, I went too far. Let me get back to this. Any questions on any of the assignments? Kind of the progressing of that assignment? I got covered in more detail in just a little bit. Okay, so here are the major components of the IMC group project outside of the marketing plan. There are 3 other components. The team or agency charter, I think it says due week 2, but if I remember in this class, we may want you to submit that in the first week, kind of your team agreement, team charter. I'll confirm that with everyone, but basically you'll submit a charter that says this is how our group is going to operate. Yeah, I said Thursday. I thought it was through this week. There is a form for that that you have to complete. Basically, fill it in. It just basically says what are the roles going to be, how are we going to resolve conflicts, and it's just a way. It just kind of sets the ground rules for how you guys work effectively as a team. Don't make a big deal out of it, you know, but do make sure that if you are particularly strong in one area or another, for example, you know, you're really good at editing, or someone else is really good at research, you know, make that known. And you know, a lot of times groups will have one person who's kind of the primary editor for the assignment that gets submitted, and they'll be responsible for doing final edits and submitting the assignment. And it's just you know, how you guys want to work together. We'll leave that up to you, but it's good to write it down and have that to refer back to. Looks like our guests are joining us. Hi guys, we'll be there in a minute. I saw Angel, you joined, so we'll be to you in a minute. And then the agency log is due in week 6. So what the agency log is, rather than covering it later, I'll talk about it now. Each week you keep notes on what you guys do as a group on the integrated marketing communication plan project. So what did we accomplish this week? It is not you know, it's not intended to be a transcript of everything you covered in the meeting, but just kind of 2 or 3 bullet points. This is what we accomplished this week in the group, and that's your log, if you will. You'll see on the website there's a form for that, and basically what a lot of groups do, and this is what I recommend, is maybe there's one person whose responsibility it is to kind of keep the notes, so that at the end of every meeting you can say, okay, this is what we're going to put in the agency log this week, and keep a running version of it rather than trying to remember. Go back, you know, do it every week. At the end of every week, this is what we accomplished this week. And then in week 6, everyone will submit that agency log. And again, we'll talk about that as we go a little further along in the class. But just keep in mind that when you guys do meet this week, you kind of want to keep track of what was accomplished. And, you know, this week will be, hey, we kind of got to know each other, came to an agreement, did our team charter, those kind of things. So that's what you'll put in the log this week. And then in week 6, you'll do an evaluation, which is feedback on teammates and also the other presentations, and that'll be submitted individually. Okay, so those are just additional assignments that are part of the IMC assignment. I just want to cover those. We'll cover those as we get closer to the end. So I want to show you what the integrated marketing communication plan looks like. This is the basic outline. There are 9 sections and plus an executive summary. And how it comes together, how it comes together is like this. I knew how to work my computer. And you see how it works. Each week we kind of build the next few sections. So in week 1, you do the situation analysis and market analysis. Then week 2, you do goals and STP. In week 3, you do marketing, objectives, analysis, and strategies. So you see how you build each week, so that when, again, you're not faced with that big bang at the end of trying to piece it all together. So as I said, each week you kind of submit a running version of your plan. The introduction, executive summary, table of contents, and title page will be added at the end, and then the appendix, as you go along, you may stuff things into the appendix, and you'll see as you go along. Sometimes the feedback on weekly assignments will be, hey, this is probably too much detail for including in the report. Why don't we push it into the appendix? So you'll see that as we go along.
Quiet.
Okay. Uh-oh, hello. Someone's mic is on. Angel. Okay, I'm going to mute you, Angel. There you go. There you go. Okay. Yeah, right. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. Here's your schedule for week 1 assignments. Basically, this week, most of you have already posted in the introductions forum. I need to go in and respond to some of those. I'll do that today and tomorrow. Before Friday, you guys need to have your first meeting, if you haven't done this already, to discuss market share. And the reason is you have an assignment to do as a team to submit, which is the marketing plan, the strategic marketing plan for the all-round product, for the brand management that we're doing. But I'd like you to have a meeting before Friday that you invite me to, so that we can go through what the assignments are, go through the data, because there's a lot of data presented in this class. And actually, for those meetings, we're going to have, I'm going to have another instructor who's taught the simulation several times, Teresa Potter, you may or may not know her, attend that meeting. An alternative to this, and I've left this up to Teresa, I haven't heard back from her, what we may do is try to get a couple of the groups together, so we only have to do this a couple of times during this week, because basically we're going to be covering the same information with all the teams this week. It's kind of an introduction to this whole simulation thing, an introduction to the case, how to interpret the data, and how to use the data. The sooner you do that, the better, obviously. But what I might try to do, and I'll put an email out tonight to say, hey, here's a couple of days that we would be available, and you can attend it as an entire team, or maybe we just open it up and have 2 sessions that you guys attend. I think that might work better this week. In weeks 2 through 5, when you guys are having your meetings to go to the next stage of the market share, those will be just me meeting with your team. We will only be meeting with just your team. So hopefully that makes sense. But I think what we're going to do this week is just kind of schedule a couple of times where we can get as many people together as we can, so that way we don't have to go over the same information 4 times. Only have to do it 2 times. That would be good. And then by the end of the day Sunday, you'll complete your market share intro. So that means you're logging into market share, go through the introductory materials, and you have to complete, there's a quiz, call it the case quiz, a quiz on the case that you have to complete by the end of the day Sunday. And then also by the end of the day Sunday, your team marketing plan. It's detailed in the course, and the object in the course about what that's about. But basically, you're not doing a complete professionally, full plan. You're doing a plan outline. The quiz is not a group quiz. There's individual assignments. I'll cover that in a second. The marketing plan, team marketing plan, is kind of a roadmap for the decisions that you'll be making as you go along. So I'll cover those things in just a second. And then also by the end of the day Sunday, your environmental scan assignment, the environmental scan of our client's organization. Okay, environmental scan, real quick. Here's what's included in that. 2 parts. Part one has two parts, a kind of an overview of the organization. So this just is a really brief overview to kind of prove and show that you at least understand what the organization is about. So we kind of cover the mission, services, what we learn about the organization. We're going to learn a lot of that tonight. Some of that you may have gleaned from the other materials you have reviewed. And then from that, you'll also kind of develop what the current situation is, what you believe their marketing mix is, what you think their product and price promotion in place, the current communications and protocol, promotional activities, key messages, who their current audience is. It's a lot of information, but basically this is not about evaluating what is there. This is not about making recommendations. This is a statement of what is. This is an observational assignment. So keep that in mind as you're going through the situation analysis. The purpose is it kind of lays the foundation for where we launch from as we're working on the plan. Okay. The second part of the environmental scan is the market analysis. And this is where you have to do a little bit of digging to try to understand who the competitors are for this organization. You know, there are people competing for the same, perhaps the same people that they serve. Certainly people competing for the same dollars in terms of donations and volunteers. So understand who their competitors are. It's always interesting for a nonprofit organization to try to understand who the competitors are. And then understand the market. They'll talk about that in the presentation tonight, what the market is and what they're trying to achieve. And again, this is a statement of what is, not what you suggest or recommend. So you're observing what is. And then the target market. We believe the target market is based on what you see from the materials, what you hear tonight. Okay, so to be clear, two parts. I'll go back. Two parts of this assignment. The first part is the kind of an overview of the organization and the current situation. And the second part is the market analysis. Okay, so that's the environmental scan. That is an individual assignment, and everyone will submit that by the end of the day Sunday. Any questions on that? Format is memo format. That's correct. Yeah, it's detailed in the assignment. Good question, Heather. All right, let's move forward. 2 to 4 pages total. Oh, see, there's your question. I knew it was in there. It is an individual assignment. 2 to 4 pages in length. A couple pages for each part. The overview and the market analysis. Then in the market share simulation, here's what you've got to do this week. First of all, log in and get set up with that. Again, hopefully everyone is able to do that. If you aren't able to get logged in for some reason or didn't find the link, let me know and I'll get that to you. Review the student manual. It's really helpful. It's not complicated, but there's a lot to absorb in how this thing works. So take time to review the student manual. Read the case study, the all-around case study. It's a lot of information. There's a lot of data. Don't get too freaked out by it. We'll spend some time going over it with you. But just get a feel for what you're trying to accomplish, managing the all-round brand. It's a cold medicine, so it's kind of interesting. It's eerily real. It's kind of, as I was going through this case study, it was pretty interesting. I learned a lot about that market as I was going through it. And then there is a case quiz that you'll find that's associated with basically, did you understand when you read the case study? And then the team assignments on the market share is the team meeting where you'll including the instructor. And as I said, I will probably do this a little differently than having the individual teams meet and inviting me. I think we'll schedule, you can meet separately to talk about the assignment, but we'll also meet, probably put two sessions together where people can attend and the purpose being to review all the information and the spreadsheets and that kind of stuff. So I think that'll be a better way to get that information conveyed to you guys. And then the initial strategic marketing plan is to be submitted by the end of the week. I forgot to mention, in those teams, You guys need to choose a team leader, so you may include that in your team charter. And the reason for that is communication from the team leader will be the person entering information in the market simulation. So you enter as the team leader enters all that information, and interpretive simulations, the company will be communicating with the group leaders or the team leaders. So designate, tell me who your team leader is, and I'll let them know who that is, and then we'll make sure that that gets the detail in the outline. Um, bullet points is okay if you want to expand a little bit. You know, the format of that outline, it gives a lot of information in the assignment about you know, the 5 C's and different things you want to include. So the outline can be bullet points. If you want to include a sentence or two, try to keep it that way. I'm not trying to have you guys write a 20-page marketing plan. I'm looking for something more in the order of 3 or 4 pages is what I'm expecting. So outline form is all I need. I'm not looking at I'm looking at just general ideas and general strategy, not, you know, it's not going to be a you know, looking at every detail, because my belief is that as you proceed from week to week, you're going to make adjustments to that plan. You'll see how that goes as we're moving along. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? I think so. I think we've covered most of the information. Hopefully, a lot to cover. Okay. Please, please, please read all course communications. I'll do my best to keep. I'll do weekly announcements on the course website, which will kind of overview the assignments for the week. I will do a lot of communication by email, and then if there's additional information we need to include, I'll put them in communication objects on the website. But just kind of make sure you're reading all course communications, especially email, and stay up to date. You know, and especially because this is the first time through this new format for the class, we've debugged it as much as we can, but there may be things that are not consistent between what I'm telling you and what's in the assignments. Please help us by pointing those out, and we'll make sure they get corrected. I actually had the ability to kind of make changes on the fly a little bit, so we can make corrections as we go. But I think we've got most of it wrinkled out or ironed out, but you never know. So, okay. All right.